So you want to play Top Gear the board game.
Tonight! I can't get a single answer right. Davdi is bored and can't speak. And I'm not making up a second mascot for this show.
This is Top Gear the board game, a charity shop find for £2.50, which, as you might realise by the end of this video, is extortion. It's just like on the telly, but in a box. The game says for 2 to 4 players. I'm playing it with a plastic skeleton, so good luck rounding up a gang for this one. If you're joining us again, do welcome yourself back to Hands Down Reviews. We're going to be taking a look today at Top Gear the board game on the show, and we're really going to be diving into that deep, thick, strategic gameplay. It's a Top Gear trivia game. It's a Top Gear trivia game. Now, if you're not aware of Top Gear, then you must be older than Davdi here, because in the UK at least, this show is essential viewing, taught in schools and in churches.
Greenhouses. I know what they're for. You can use them for growing apples and meat.
Drafting children into the life of thinking that they know anything about cars and engineering. Top Gear as a show has existed since the late 70s as a review programme for up-and-coming road users in the UK, essentially advertising the latest in British automobiles and showcasing cars from around the world, giving basic consumer advice. But that's obviously not the Top Gear that we remember and grew up with. Top Gear changed in 1988. It rifled through a myriad of different presenters, including Noel Edmonds of all people. But then the show introduced a fresh face who would prove to be more critical and give more biting and harsh feedback on the cars he drove. This man was, of course, Jeremy Clarkson.
When you've finished fiddling around in the woods, all you need to do is move this lever into road mode and drive to the front wheel stops. To confirm that's happened, there's a few little lights on the dashboard.
And from 1988 onwards, he spearheaded the show, moving it in a direction of witty remarks, one-liners, and overall breathing new comedic life into a long, stale review programme.
US life in the Florida sunshine is blemish-free, and the interior has never been ravaged by even a muddy welly, let alone a playful Labrador with alopecia.
Clarkson would later go on to be one of the leading forces behind the production of Top Gear. In circa 2001, Clarkson planned to totally revamp the show, creating the now iconic sets and segments that we're all familiar with. In 2002, Top Gear rebooted itself, now with famous hosts Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and Jason Daw? The original lineup didn't include James May.
I want something modern.
Daw was fired after the first season of the show and was replaced with national treasure James May. I've seen Daw described often as the peak best of Top Gear, which is just hilariously true. The show went on to, you all know, you know the story of Top Gear, or you know your respective country's version of Top Gear. It's everywhere. Past 2002, Top Gear was enormous. So with all this success and all this attention, there was bound to be some merchandise flying off shelves. But today we're looking at one of the things that didn't. Top Gear the board game. Not to be confused with Top Gear the board game Fastest Lap, which kinda looks more fun. I wish I found that one in the bargain bin. You know it's basic when there's no playing manual and all you get are the instructions printed on the inside of the box. You do get a nice wee baggie of playing pieces, however, and players start by making the tough choice of what colour playing piece they want to be. Brace yourself, the questions only get harder from here. Players collect the ultimate card deck, shuffle it and deal one ultimate card to each player. The ultimate car acts as your victory conditions for the game, and you'll spend the rest of the game building up the points to craft this ultimate dream car. They're all combinations of some of the lads' favourite cars from across the show, like the Honda, a combination between a Honda S200, a Volvo S60R and a Subaru WRX. Or the Porgan Nirmer, a combination of a Porsche 911 Carrera, a Pagani Zonda F and a BMW Z4. The ultimate cars have points underneath them, and that's the score you're trying to work towards as you play the game. You'll definitely need this little pad that comes along with the game to keep track of your score, so make sure to grab a pen or a pencil as well. You place your coloured token on the starting line and decide who goes first, roll and move. There's a variety of different spaces on the board, each requiring different actions. The stig tiles and hazard tiles have cards that correspond with them, so you draw a card. There's a caravan parking space, which is this game's equivalent to the jail from Monopoly. Caravan Conquers pits two players against each other in a dice roll-off. Literally just the person with the highest dice roll steals 5 points from the other here. Finally, there's the power lap space, in which you roll the dice 3 times and hope that these 3 rolls is less than the number on the tile. Still with me here? Still awake? Then let's begin. So if you're joining us from the last Hands Down review, you'll know we did a full narrated playthrough of Betrayal at House on the Hill to show you guys how deep that game goes in its gameplay. We filmed a playthrough for this game as well, but... boring! So instead, we're going to do a super abridged version and show you pretty much everything Top Gear is going to hit you with while you play. We somehow managed to secure another player during our playthrough who chose to remain anonymous, and we were each dealt our ultimate car. I got the Sub-X Honda, Davde got the Jaguar 3, and our guest got the Portus. We placed our playing pieces on the starting line. Davde went first, landed on a Stig tile, and drew a Stig card. Stig cards are basic trivia cards you'll get thrown at you throughout a game, and you'll begin to see how much of a Top Gear superfan you need to be in order to play this game. Our group thought we knew a decent amount about Top Gear and the cars they've covered, but we were not prepared for the in-depth knowledge required to answer these questions correctly. Stig cards come in a variety of different types, most consist of basic trivia questions, each having 3 questions per card. The player that drew the Stig card chooses the number between 1 and 3 and they're asked that question. The Would I Lie to You cards are basic true or false questions about the show, others have multiple choice options, so the game at least throws you a bone there. Some of these basic trivia cards include pictures of cars. The rule box says that the player asking the question should cover up the answers with their hand and show the player answering the question the picture. The card will then ask a question about said car. This rule also applies to the Cool Wall cards, in which players are given a car and must correctly guess where on the Top Gear Cool Wall the car ended up.
It's not cool.
It's sad, this, isn't it?
It's a sad moment. I'm afraid Jaguars still have a whiff of the golf club about them.
Which, if you're not aware, used to be a segment in Top Gear where they would rank cars based on their coolness. They had 4 categories: seriously uncool, uncool, cool, and sub-zero. Davde got his question right. The points he gained are displayed on the card and each gives set amounts for different categories. Our guest went next and rolled a 6 to Caravan Conquers, challenged Davde for the points he just gained and nabbed 5 handling off him. Play continued until our guest eventually landed on a hazard tile. These are essentially chance cards and grant random outcomes. They can be both good and bad, like granting you 10 handling or speed points for free or robbing you of those same points. Eventually, Davde landed on one of the lap time tiles. He rolled the dice 3 times and he got less than the time, so he was awarded with 10 speed points as detailed on the board. We kept going around the board getting many questions wrong. A little thing to remember is the start line is a square you can land on and it acts just as a roll again square, so you just pick up the dice and roll again. Eventually we reached the end game and all players were pretty close to getting all points in all 3 categories. It was near this end game that our guest drew the Caravan Parking Space card, a card that puts the next player ahead of you on the board in the Caravan Parking Space, aka jail. That was, of course, me, which pretty much took me out of the race for the win entirely. To get out of the caravan, I'd have to roll a 4 or higher on my next turn, but by that point, it was already too late. On his very next turn, Davde answered a question to win the last of his points required to build the ultimate car. He made it to the finish line quickly and the game was over. It took about 35 minutes total to play. The bottom line with this game is going to be how much of a Top Gear stan you are. The questions are so detailed and specific to the show that it's almost impossible to recommend to anyone. Even seasoned Top Gear watchers who've been watching since birth struggled a lot with these questions. The Cool Wall cards are a nice break from the trivia questions, and I wish more of the game focused around the Cool Wall guesses. Even if you're not sure, it's fun to discuss and try and guess where the car might have ended up. It's a shame the minigames on the board are so stale. We ended up just skipping them entirely as we progressed with the game because of how boring they actually are. The ultimate car grading system seems cool at first and a unique way to win the game, but I don't know if it was just our game, but it seemed like the coolness stat was way too easy to obtain, meaning that ultimate cards that require a lot of that stat, like Davdi's Jagera 3, tend to give you an advantage while playing. Another issue with the scoring system is how much of a headache it is to keep track of. It's likely your score sheet will be a jumbled mess of pluses and minuses by the end of a short play session. So to round off this review, I gotta say, I think there's a reason this one was left in the charity shop. The gameplay is shallow and might as well be Top Gear Monopoly with how many elements it rips directly from that game. The fact the game is exclusively trivia based around the show and the opinions of Clarkson, Hammond and May on the cars they've reviewed in the past, there's a rather large barrier for entry even before picking up the game. Plus, the game board is just small, bland and flimsy. This game is definitely getting the first hands down, thumbs down on the show. Don't get this one unless you're absolutely Top Gear mad. Once again guys, a big thank you to everyone for watching. Now go and check out the previous review on Betrayal at House on the Hill if you liked this one, and stay tuned for more. I'd like to take a second to give a big shout out to Cam Sandwich, a fellow content creator who was a huge reason I made my first video on Betrayal and started this channel. If you're somehow watching this and not already aware of Cam, then what are you doing? Get over there and check out his channel, it's right up your alley. I just wanted to give him a shout out as he watched my video and he gave me some seriously awesome feedback for going forward on YouTube. He's a great guy, go and give that channel some loving. Like always, if you want to further support what we do here at Hands Down, you can visit this link to our Patreon and the link in the description to access some premium content. Right now we have all the short films I've made throughout my studies, so you can go and point and laugh at them if you like. Thanks again guys, try to have a good one out there today, especially all you guys across the old pond. It's obviously a big day, so take it easy out there and don't go crazy. Thanks again for watching, we'll see you later.